Deacon Ray, in the Vatican II documents, it clearly articulates that the deacon is the driving force of the church's diaconia. And in fact, Pope Paul VI referred to the fact that the deacon is the church's service sacramentalized. And I think that comes from the fact that the church, and Pope Paul VI said this, the church itself is in service to all humanity, but the deacon has a particular charism, a particular service in supporting the church. Can you talk a little bit about that service?
Yeah, so, when you go back to the nascent moments of the church, captured in Acts chapter 6, the apostles recognized rather quickly that this was much more than they were. It was more protracted than they ever dreamed it would be. And so you find that the apostles of the church gathered and saying, it's not right for us to neglect the word. And therefore, for that reason, there are other functions. There are other ways that we're supposed to be ministering to people. And so let's choose 7 good men. And they did. And to go out and to serve wherever need existed as emissaries for the apostles. Not to replace the apostles, not to stand in place of the apostles, but to serve the mission of Christ within the reality of that nascent moment of the church.
The most current documents on the ministry of the deacon produced by the bishops talks about the deacon being the herald of the gospel and the leader of the new evangelization. What does that mean in your own mind, and how do you form men for that type of ministry?
If you hear the term new evangelization, the popes have written about it significantly. Paul VI talked about it, John Paul II, Benedict, and now Francis. It's a term that continues to rise and come up. But here recently, with the deeper understanding of what it means to be a disciple of Christ, what has emerged is the sense of we've been very good at handing on the tradition in terms of teaching. What the challenge now is to witness, right? To bring forth the charisma, that message that is embedded in each of us, whether we're deacons, whether we're lay people, whether we're even Catholic, it's the charisma. That's the carrying on of the tradition that's existed from the very moment to move forward. And so when you think about that, the new evangelization is about witnessing to people with joy, right? And in fact, as you know, the last statement in the church when in the Mass, when the deacon is present, is the dismissal, itimisses, to go. Go forth glorifying the Lord by your life. So it is in our living that the new evangelization comes alive through the charisma. And that we have to explain some of this to people is a secondary reality to showing them who Jesus is and how his saving works have saved the world.
I think at dinner last night, we talked about the image of the deacon's ministry being on the knees, a washing of feet type of ministry with, Jesus as the deacon par excellence, providing the model for deacons. But we also talked about the fact that even though a deacon experiences his service in humility, he's also called to boldly proclaim Christ crucified and Christ risen. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, it again goes back to the whole idea of the charisma and witness, right? That Christ himself he emptied himself, he gave himself over, took the form of a slave. And not that we're doing it in the same exact way, but we follow in his footsteps. Anytime we're able to give somebody a cool cup of water, whatever other things that we do in life. And so it's a very basic reality of what it means to be holy, is to just serve God's people and to be present to them, to offer a sense of mercy, compassion, solicitude, because that's really what we hunger for. Everybody wants to be loved.
I love one of the stories that you like to tell for your candidates in formation. You send them out with a bowl of water and a tub and a towel and some toenail clippers and send them out onto the streets. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and how that has changed those deacon candidates?
Yeah, what's interesting is sometimes people understand the diaconate better than we do from the outside, right? They know the witness that Christ has called us to, and they hold us to that. And so that story evolved in one of our clinical pastoral component sessions when we had a group in formation, and we send them out in mid-formation. So in the fourth semester of 9 semesters, we take a pause and we send them out to do the kinds of ministries that the poor, the marginalized, the downtrodden are cared for, to ground the ministry and the witness of Christ, to ground our formation into the witness of Christ. And so what wound up happening was we are in dialogue with these various agencies. And this one agency, we went to them and said, we'd like to do ministry here, and we'll send some guys in formation. But we don't just want to hand out sandwiches or make sandwiches and do those kinds of things. And one of the sisters that was actually running the ministry, out of a quick thought, challenged us and said, well, the only thing that they really don't get here is people don't wash their feet. And so, sister, we can do that too, So we had bowls and water and toenail clippers and soap and sponges. And we did that for a complete semester with 22 guys. It was a beautiful gift to them. It was a beautiful witness to the people there. And it certainly was a beautiful witness to those who had already been ordained. That call to mind what it is you knelt before the Archbishop and said, and what the church teaches. That sense of kenosis, of emptying yourself and becoming something that you might not otherwise become.
I think that's just such a beautiful story.